Hey there, guys. This is Malorian, and this is going to be another Paintisode. Coughing already. So what happens in a Paintisode? In a Paintisode, really, it's about an hour long. I'll be painting. The idea is you pull out your paints too, and I'll just be answering your questions and yapping about stuff as I get stuff painted. I'm going to start with the questions I got from the little kind of like request video I did before this, and then I'll get to the question of anybody who joined on. So what am I painting today? This is going to be, well, Forge Guard unit number 2. So I got one done. We're on to unit number 2. So I got 2 guys here. They did great in the last tournament I went to. So nice and inspired to get these guys painted. It always sucks when like you're painting something and then you realize, you know what, I don't actually want this in my list, or it actually turns out like, wow, this model actually kind of sucks. It's really hard to bring yourself to paint the model after that. But when a model does really well and you're like, damn, I really want this thing in my list, it really pushes you more to get the thing painted. So either way, let's get her done. So starting with the first question, comes from Stephen Walker, and he says, not so much a question as a comment on something you said in another episode. I recently made some great strides in painting skill, and I'm going back and repainting all the models that don't match my new level of painting. It's not as bad as I thought it would be, and I'm glad to be doing it. Now, what this relates to is I was talking about how I'm not really interested in increasing my skill level in painting. I would rather be a speed painter, get more done, and along with that too, I didn't feel it was worth improving my painting style and techniques, because then all of a sudden my old models look like extra crap, right? I mean, with all the stuff I painted, if I start painting better, then when they're side by side, they're garbage, and I'm kind of needing to go back and redo everything. Now, what Stephen Walker is saying there is that he basically did this, and it's not too bad. Now, I have to kind of agree and disagree with that one, because sometimes it can be a lot easier and sometimes a lot harder. Where it goes easily is where it's something where you're painting very basically. So you just put on the colors by numbers, and there you go. It's that didn't go where it's supposed to go. So when it's like that, and you want to take it to the next level, you're adding highlights to it, then all of a sudden, when you're doing that, it's like, all right, you take what you had, you start putting in those highlights. Man, I should have blown my nose before I came here. And it's really easy to do. You basically just grab the model and add in those highlights. Where it can be a real problem is where you already basically finished the models. Now, for my part, my last coat is just this weird kind of like self-made wash that I throw on there. And so it would mean that I need to rewash. And then, of course, if I do that, the whole model gets darker. So it's really tough. One of the ones that could be even harder is that if you use our coat. If you use our coat, then I mean that thing is sealed in there. And if you decide after the fact that you want to make changes, that can be a little bit difficult. So it really is kind of like a case-by-case basis. But either way, I'm happy for Stephen Walker that he decided to, push things to the next level. I know that even though he's not in my local area, he joined my local Facebook so that he can join the Tale of Fantasy Painters we're doing. So that's kind of fun. And yeah, and I'm good on him for trying to get more of his stuff done, really, in the end of the day there. Will I be doing it? I still won't. I still have so much to paint. I mean, really, with this extreme painting challenge, which I know someone's going to ask about soon, so I'll talk about it then. I've been painting tons of guys, right? I mean, over a 3-week period, I have to paint 32 models, and I'm still going to have lots of guys to paint after that. So would I rather go back and improve my previous guys, or just paint more guys? I'm just every single time, right? That's not even a question. Of course, I'm just going to go forward and try and paint more guys. So that really answers that one there. I'm just trying to finish off the the black on this hammer before I go over. Checking, making sure nothing else is supposed to be black. I know I'm going to put the model down and then I'll remember. But luckily we have model number 2. And while we're doing model 2, next question. Ross Figure Painting Co. UK saying, okay, oh, this one's longer. I got to open her up. Looks like kicking and screaming. I just have to follow you into this warm hordes. Which army do you think would be best for a dyed in the wool gobble player like me? I did use Malorian hordes of orcs after watching your vids, but generally prefer sneaky goblins with lots of tricks backed up by rock lavas and doom divers, so a light army with lots of movement is possible. Definitely, I know exactly what we should do. Circle. Circle is all about the movement shenanigans, about being tricky, and you know, if you are smarter than your opponent, you're going to be catching them in your traps that you can lay for them. And yeah, I mean, from what you're saying there, they're exactly what you want. Some of them, their stuff is feather light, other stuff is rock hard. You can take a mix of whatever you want, but either way, that's really, I mean, when you say war machines or hordes, and you say movement shenanigans and just, you know, mobility, you're really going to come to Circle. They're the guys that are really the masters of that field. Now, I mean, other ones could maybe be in there. I mean, if you're doing Veil 2 and doing a bunch of admonition and refuge, I mean, maybe you could work something there, but I think for sure Circle is what you'd be looking for. I like painting non-metallic metals, so either hordes or something with lots of armor would be good. Well, a lot of stuff there doesn't have lots of metal, although Circle has some of the coolest armor there. What they have is all this armor that has engravings in it, and really cool, like Celtic detail. And so really, I mean, it's one of the things where if you're a novice player, it's pretty easy to paint those. But if you are an expert painter, like I'm assuming you are, because you're a painting company, you can really make those things pop and look amazing. So yeah, I mean, you're not like having completely armored guys and all this stuff. I mean, they're not really an armor faction. I mean, they're guys that are the higher armor are like that because they're constructs and they're all stone and wood as opposed to, you know, actual metal. So that could be maybe not what you're looking for, but still, I think something you should be definitely looking at. I am not too worried about being super competitive, just as long as I don't get too badly stuffed each time. Now, Circle is one of those armies where it doesn't start off easy. You really have to learn the order of activations, that first I do this, and then this, and then this, click, 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 click. And it's really one of those things where you will be getting better the longer you go, as you pick up the tricks and learn how to play the army. So be ready for that. I'm not saying straight up that you're going to get your ass handed to you every single time, but know that it's, I mean, there's some armies like Cricks where whoosh, you get good really quick, and then it's kind of hard to get after that. But this is one of those armies, also kind of like Convergence. Oh, I got like my daughter's hair on this. That really is a slow grow type thing. So just be prepared for that. And really, I mean, when you're a new player, 2 hordes, you shouldn't be expecting to be amazing anyway, because you're not just learning the faction, you're learning the game, man, and that's just going to take some time. You know, I would literally not expect to win any of your first 10 games unless you find like somebody else who's brand new and you're going to learn with them. But even then, I mean, I wouldn't really highly suggest doing that, because what happens if you and your buddy don't understand a rule and then you start learning the game wrong? Definitely, if there's a press ganger in your area, try and get them to run a demo for you. If there's a regular league, get in there and start playing with them. And that's the way you're going to start learning the game, right? You might get crushed in the beginning, as you know, you don't know what's going on. You don't know what tricks other armies are using. But I mean, that's how you're going to learn that stuff. And like I said, you don't want to learn the wrong things from playing against a brand new player. It's better to go against a experienced player, maybe not like, like the best guy in your meta, but it'd be important for you to play against someone who knows enough that and is nice enough as well. I mean, hopefully you don't find some jerk that can lead you through the game and say, oh, that's not how Reaving Fury works. It's actually like this, and oh yeah, I mean you actually could have done this here. So you'll learn a lot more that way. All right, down to X David saying, how do you feel about our 25-point army in a box? Would you introduce it to new players? Thank you, X David Williams. Now this brings up something fairly interesting. So for those who don't know, there is these new army in a boxes. Really, I mean, this is a lot more like what Games Workshop used to do, where you have kind of like your starter box, but then there's also this larger version that really is an army in a box that you just buy this one box and you're good to go. And the nice thing about the ones that Privateer Press did is that it is a hell of a great deal. I seem to remember you save 40% just based off of Games Workshop, or sorry, Privateer Press numbers, so that's pretty awesome. And as well, the models you get in there are fairly solid as well. I mean, that's almost not saying anything because really you can make armies with whatever you want, but pretty much everything in there is usable and good. Where I want to go with this then is actually I have Anthony from the Sustainable Center who is interested in this. I mean, he looks at this, he sees about how he can get into the game for just $100 now. If you go into one of the online ones, you get even more of a discount. So he is now interested to get back into the game again. And with that, he's coming to me to kind of explain how it works. So he's put a video on his channel. I didn't get the chance to watch it before this, but on Thursday we're going to be getting together and doing a video where I'm going to walk him through, say what there is, and see if it matches his play style. Now, since you ask it here, I might as well kind of go through it as well. So I'm just going to bring this up because I don't actually have everything totally memorized about what's in there. But let's just go over what's in this box. There is, come on. Okay, first of all, the caster. The caster is Siege. Now, this is your first ticket to see that this is a good way to start this faction. For those of you who have been watching my videos, I love Siege. He is a fantastic caster. He's a very highly competitive caster. And, I mean, if you look around at all the stats of what Cygnar casters are being used, I mean, he's right up there as one of the top ones. So it's not like, oh, yeah, they're just throwing in some caster there that they're trying to sell because he's not that popular, blah, blah, blah. No, this is a top caster that they just did a resculpt for. And, yeah, I mean, he's a great place to start because he has a lot of answers. I mean, the last thing you want to do is get into a game, find out you don't have an answer to a SKU, and be like, well, guess I lose. Can't really do anything until I move on and buy other stuff. So really good of them to start with a caster like that. Plus, the other nice thing about Siege is that he's rather forgiving. If you were to start with some other weaker caster, say like Nemo, I mean, you make one mistake, you get shot in the face, and you're dead. And, as a new player, that can really suck and say, to hell with this game. Siege has pretty good defensive stats. Not so much in defense, but good armor. And then he also has that foxhole. So he basically just makes cover for himself wherever he wants to be. So really very great way to play him. He's a defensive caster that can be playing way far back. So again, very forgiving and powerful at the same time. Okay, now let's get into what jacks they give you. Well, the jacks they give you is the Defender and the Avenger. Now, the Defender is an awesome jack. That one, I mean, it's really hard to say anything too bad against it. It is a very heavy shooting jack, very long range, and a huge punch. And so something like that is awesome. especially with Siege's feat, where all of a sudden, you know, the damage you do is doubled. You know, you want to be able to reach out and touch someone. It is really easy to kill a caster during that feat turn. You know, if all of a sudden they're, you try and shoot the enemy warlock or caster and their armor is halved, well, you are going to crank them, and you know, you might even just one-shot them. So I mean, Siege is going to go up, he's going to pop feet, he's probably going to shoot the caster himself, but you know, even if he can't, maybe he charged up to get to where he needs to be to get that feat in range, and then the defender just bam shoots the guy. With Siege's spells, you can be getting past things like clouds and stealth. You know, it really is a great jack to work with him. Now, where it's maybe not good is the fact that a lot of times people now go past the defender for the storm wall. You know, the storm wall is kind of like the big old defender, except there's two of them and a cyclone and also a stormcaller all in one. However, that is also a huge points investment. Whereas a defender is 9 points, the storm wall is 19. So especially if you're looking as a new player where you're not doing 50s, right? You're doing 35 points. Well, you know what? You might want to say this is not the spot where I want a storm wall and I want a defender. You know, either way, having a defender in your army is not a bad thing. You know, defenders are great. The next thing that is on that list was the Avenger. Now, the Avenger is kind of good, kind of not so great. Now, he's not that popular, but he is kind of interesting. Now, what he has is Quake on his gun. So he has a gun that shoots, does a nice sized AoE, area of effect for those who are new and listening to this. And as well, so of course, an AoE is good right there because, again, if you pop Siege's feat, then everything that is underneath that blast there is having its armor halved as long as it's the first time it's taken damage. So a great way where that guy can clear out lots of infantry very quick. As well, if it hits you, you are knocked down. So that is awesome. You know, if you want to get an assassination on a enemy caster or something like that, having that knockdown is amazing, and it can be the thing that wins the game for you. Now, here's the problem. Now, the issue with him is that he's short range. It is really short range. I mean, you're looking at the defender that like reaches all the way across the board type thing, and then you got this Avenger that really does not have that sort of range. Plus, if you ever want to knock down, it has to be a direct hit. You can't miss and scatter. You have to hit that thing directly. So that can also be an issue because if you're wanting to knock a caster down because its defense is so high, well, is the Avenger even going to hit? Now, sometimes you can get some sneaky things where a caster is standing by an objective, or it is standing by another model that is low defense, but straight up to shooting the caster, I mean, usually he's farther back, and as well, you know, it's just going to be hard to hit the guy, right? So that part's kind of not so great. Siege himself, even if you wanted to use that mechanic, Siege has Force Hammer, so you could just knock down the guys anyway by doing a magical slam. If you guys have watched my last videos, you'll see where I use that to good and bad effect. But I mean, hey, you know, maybe if you use this guy, then that saves you the focus, right? Instead of having to have Siege have to do this knockdown thing, well, then this guy can do it, right? Also, looking on the good side, you know, even if you ignore the knockdown thing, okay, well, maybe he's just there for doing the AoE and killing off lots of troops as they're coming in, you know? There's nothing wrong with that either. As well, he's also a POW 18, so you know, he's a pretty good beat stick. If you start getting a heavy up close, you know, maybe you pop the feet, did pretty good, but now he got and closed the door. You just need to make sure you can finish him off. Well, bam, you got the Avenger, which is also POW 18. So, you know, that's not so bad either. So you got to kind of look at all the different options. If nothing else, you could take that Avenger and use its chassis, because in War Machine there's a lot of different jacks that are on the same build, like a base armor, and then really just its head is different, and its weapons, its armament is different. So one of the things you can always do if you decide that the Avenger just is not for you is go find a guy that has like some extra bits so you can convert it into a Centurion. You know, that'll be completely within the rules. They're look exactly the same. You'd have the right weapons on him, and the Centurion is something that's a lot more popular. So, you know, hell, maybe even that's the answer right away, right? Just don't even make him into the Avenger, just make him into the Centurion. And the nice thing too is, I mean, as a new player, you can always just proxy it first, right? Just put it together. Don't put any weapons on it. Try it out, because they're both the same points. They're both 9 points. So you can always try that stuff out. If you're really good, you can go and you can actually pin it, and you can change it. Now, one of the things I'm wondering here is I'm actually guessing that what they're giving you is going to be the kit for it. So really, you shouldn't be forced to be going into the Avenger anyway. But I don't really have that detail right now, so just know that that could be a possibility. Yay, silver. What else does he have? He has a Squire. Now, Squire is awesome. It's a solo that extends the control area. So when you have a feat like Sieges, where he needs to have stuff in his control area to affect it, getting +2 inches is awesome. Plus getting extra focus is awesome. Re-rolling to hit your magical slam is awesome. So Squire, definitely a great thing to have in this box. Then you have gun mages. You got the gun mages and the unit attachment here, and I mean, that's just amazing. I mean, gun mages are very awesome. So starting, I mean, they're awesome in this list, and they're awesome in a lot of other lists too. So you will not regret getting these gun mages. You will be using them again and again in many, many lists. You know, even if you're one of those guys that you'd rather have long gunners, you know, even those people use gun mages as well, right? Like, they're just a great unit that can do the shooting and the pushing and knockdowns, and yeah, they're awesome. So that, I mean, I can just gush on those guys forever, but just really take in that gun mages are amazing, and the fact they're in this army in a box just kind of goes to show that they are putting good stuff in there. Next, we have a Storm Guard unit. Now, this one I'm sure people have mixed feelings on. Storm Guard are an infantry unit that have these halberds that do electroleaps, so that whenever you hit something, a model within 4, the closest one gets hit by lightning as well. Now, some people don't like them as much because they have some lower defense. I mean, their armor is okay, but it's not enough to usually save them. So unless you have some other buff on them or something like that, they usually don't stand up too well. I mean, if you pick up a junior after or something like that, you can raise that armor. But they're one of those things where they're even not so much a throwaway, because the unit of 10 is 9 points. So, you know, the same cost as one of those heavy jacks. Other guys use things like Forge Guard and stuff. But here's a good thing about using them in Siege. Now, like I said, Siege's feat is that for the first time enemy models are damaged in his control area, you half their armor. Well, if you are up against an infantry-heavy army, you charge in with those Storm Guard, and you're going to slaughter the world, because not only will their charges kill whatever they hit, but the electroleaps as well will kill whatever's around them as well. So that's amazing, right? Sometimes those POW 10 electroleaps, they're nice, but they don't really do much because armor is higher. Well, hell, I mean, even if you're armor 18, you're going to drop down to armor 9, and all of a sudden these damages from stupid little electroleaps are dice +1, and that is really scary. So, I mean, that's something right there that can be really good. You can also, because they have ranked attack, you can put them in front of the gun mages to protect the gun mages, because those gun mages do not want to be in combat. And so what they can do then is shoot through the Storm Guard. So, hey, that can work just great there too. Plus, last solo, I should have looked at this one before I said too much, you actually do get the junior with this, the junior Warcaster. So all of a sudden you have Arcane Shield, which you can be using anywhere you want, whether it's on the Storm Guard to make sure they survive until they charge, or if you are actually trading out the Avenger for a Centurion, any of those things would be awesome. So another great, awesome model, much like the Gun Mages, which you are going to find yourself using again and again and again. Now, probably the next question you have from this then is, where do you go from here? This list here is 35 points, which is a standard size. It's on the smaller side of what people play, but it is a standard size. You should know that in the end, most people do play 50 points, so we're going to have to put another 15 points in there. So the question is, if you're trying to plan for that expansion, what type of models should you be getting? Well, the very first one, which is very easy, is 1 point, and that's going to be Reinhold. He is a mercenary, and basically he gives you an extra bullet, an extra shot. So we're on Siege's feet turn, he wants to kill the world. Well, you know what? If Siege gets an extra shot, that makes that a lot easier. So 1 point, he's really cheap. I think he's like $9 or something crazy, cheap to buy. So money-wise and point-wise, great place to go. Where do you go past that? You know what? There's a lot of options to you. But the biggest thing that I'd say is that you want to be able to go more with range, because the reason why you go with range is because when you pop that feat, sure, your guys can charge in combat, but there's a limited amount of models that you can affect, and you can be damn sure your opponent's going to be doing their damnedest to mitigate how many models you can attack during the feat. So if you have shooting, you can really bypass that. So one of the things that I'd be interested in adding is Blazers. A little bit more expensive to buy, but you can get the Blazers, a full unit of 5 of them. They are basically gun mages running on horses, and they're awesome. They're fast, they're devastating, they can do an extra dice of damage, they can do lightning leaps, they get to pick all their different things. They are great to have, and definitely during Siege's feat turn, do a lot of damage. So there's 10 points. And then for the last 4, that's easy. You're going to put in the Black 13th. The Black 13th is a character unit, and it's a character unit that is freaking awesome. I mean, for only 4 points, you get these 3 models that are, I'm making sure it is 4 points, right? Yeah. That, again, can do boosted damage shots. They're really high mat, so they're shooting things all the time. And then you got freaking Ryan in there that can do a special shot that does a AoE 4. So, I mean, like, again, we were talking about the Avenger trying to hit something with that AoE during the feat. Here's another one with a higher rat and a longer threat range where you just go boom, and you just kill the world with that one shot. And it is very gratifying to do that. So that's what I do to bring it to 50. Looking at the cost of those models, it would probably cost you then. So, I mean, the Blazers are the thing that are bringing it up, because the Blazers are more expensive kit. I seem to remember that they're roughly $100 just for the Blazers. So, I mean, again, this starter all-in-one box you're getting is amazingly cheap. So if you're getting it from Discount Games or whatever for $100, realize that that is an amazing deal. And then to get to the rest of these things is about $100 for the Blazers, about $10 for Reinhold, and then the Black 13th, I'm not totally sure how much they are, but let's say like $25. So for, the 2 things combined, but between the all-in-one box and then getting these things, and again, you can get these other things I just mentioned too as well, cheaper if you did them on Discount Games or something like that. Under $200 then, or around $200, you're in the game. You have everything you need to play a full game of War Machine, and it's a competitive list. It's not like in some other games like Fantasy or 40K, where if you spend $200, well, okay, good for you. You have a very, very, very small force, and you're barely playing the game. No, you have an army that is ready to go. So definitely an awesome way to go. like I said, on Thursday, I'll be covering this again with Anthony. I'm sure he's going to have more questions on tactics or uses, so we'll touch back with him then. So popping back over, we see I have a message here from Donald Davis. Did you hear about Reef closing down his channel? Yes. Just before I started this Paintisode, I saw on my subscribe thing, the whole idea where Anthony was saying about the all-in-one box, and so I'll have to listen to that after, see what he's saying. And then I also saw that MrReef is closing his channel. Now, of course, this isn't like knowing MrReef. This isn't a short little blurb. It's not like it's a 2-minute video. It's a 6-hour video. So, no, I didn't watch it yet because I just saw it like, what is it, like half an hour ago. Wow, we're already half an hour in. But I am, as soon as I saw that, I was like, holy crap, what's going on? I am kind of not surprised because I know MrReef wasn't too hot on the changes of the end times. So the idea where he might be moving away from fantasy is possible. Plus, I know he plays a lot of other games. Earlier in his channel, he was spending more time introducing us to those other games he likes to play, historical games and so forth. So he did say in the description that there's a link to his new channel. So although he is stopping that channel, from what I saw just from the description, it looks like he's also opening a new channel. So that's good. I'll have to watch the video to understand why he's closing it to open up a new one. I don't know why he'd want to be losing the subscribers for that. I'm sure there's some good reason for it. I mean, you're not going to just randomly close your channel just because. So really keen to learn what that is. And if I am wrong and he's not doing anything else and he's really just getting out of doing battle reports, like maybe his new channel is about cooking, right? It'll have nothing to do with this hobby. If that's the case, sorry, it'll be pretty big loss. You know, MrReef is a great guy, and he would put out those shows once a month, and it was just great content. You know, even when it was a game that I don't play and I have no interest in playing, I would still listen to it because, you know, he'd had his humor to it, and it was worth listening to just to hear him joke around. So we will see what is happening there. So popping back over to the questions. Get out of here. Next one I have here is from John Tilby saying, have you had a chance to look at the 2015 scenarios, and how do you think they will impact gameplay? Yeah, I have looked at the 2015 scenarios. I've already played in a tournament, 2 tournaments with them, and it is an interesting change. Going down to just 8 scenarios takes a little bit of that diversity out, but then again, some of that diversity wasn't really needed, right? I got a square here, now the square is here. Like, it wasn't, some of these things weren't like a massive change. So the idea of going down to less scenarios, it maybe is not such a bad thing after all. Of course, another massive thing for this is now you get to pick your objectives. And this is really interesting because, first of all, I like it because normally when you play a game, it's like, oh, wait, what do these objectives do again? Is this the one where it's the free charges, or what is this thing? Now you will know because you're picking which objective you want to take. And there are some awesome objectives that can really work along with your play style or what you're worried about, right? If you're casting lots of upkeeps, hey, man, that Arcane Wonder can be awesome. If you're running Beast or Jack Heavy, hey, that fuel can be awesome. If you're really worried because Krios is knocking everybody down and doing a pop and drop, hey, take the one that makes you immune to knockdown, right? So really a lot of great options in there. And again, the one they seem to be pushing is the artillery one. So that one there, you get boosted damage rolls. I have a lot of people that are talking about taking crazy light artillery spam to really take advantage of that. Actually, with Siege, one of my buddies was pushing that idea and running 2 chain guns and all this other stuff there. So I don't feel that's broken. because you don't even know there'll be objectives, right? Of all the missions, it's not like there's objectives in every single one of those 8 missions. So, hey, I mean, if you go chips in and go crazy artillery, well, good for you. Just be realizing you're not going to get that extra bonus if you are in a scenario that doesn't have objectives at all. So you won't get that bonus. Plus, sometimes the objectives are farther up or further back than you would like. So, I mean, you still have that randomness that makes it so that's not just a dead giveaway. And one of the best things that proves this is that there's a lot of different objectives that people are taking, right? At first, in the beta version, it was Arcane Wonder all the time. It was just the best one to take. But now that the got the input from the community, changed that one, people are saying, I'm going to do this one, I'm going to do this one, I'm going to do this one. And it's really great to hear all the diversity, because that means it's balanced. And so that's amazing. So I really like it. I can't really think of any other major changes to the 2015 Steamroller that really change anything. So yeah, I'm thinking it's great. Really, the only thing I want more of is more games. There's in February 2 tournaments, and it looks like I can't go to either of them because in one I can't get a babysitter and the wife's out, and in the second one, pretty much the same thing. I can't really get away to it. So that really sucks because I want to get out there and I want to practice and I want to do well, but can't do that if you can't go to the tournaments. So next part of his question. Do you think that leaking the content of releases in advance builds expectation, or do people evaluate models before they come out and write off the ones that they think are bad before they are released? You know what? That doesn't matter anyway. I mean, the leaking doesn't really change that, because what you have is you'll have War Room. Now, as soon as the model comes out, War Room is going to be updated, and you're going to know those rules anyway. So whether Privateer Press leaks it in like an actual leak, or whether you're seeing in War Room, you know, it's good for that either way. I mean, really, what's the alternative? That you do not know the new rules until you buy the model? I mean, in a game that's based off interactions, you just don't want to do that. People would not buy the models and wait for somebody else to buy it and make a comment of it on the forums. And so, I mean, I think it's more for customer satisfaction that they do that. And they say, hey, guys, by the way, this is coming out. This is Dynamo, and he's going to do this and this and this. And then all of a sudden people are going, wow, that's going to be awesome with Nemo and with this and with that. And whereas in Games Workshop, it's more like, oh, is this like the next awesome thing? No? Okay, then I'm not buying it. New options means that other options become better. So whereas a lot of, say, Cygnar players might not be ever really playing Nemo, as soon as they talk about and release the idea for Dynamo, oh, well, you know, I want Nemo, and if I got Nemo, then I probably want some Storm Towers, and maybe I want to get some Storm Striders, and, you know, it's like this, where other models that you would never use, all of a sudden you would, because of how this one model can change the synergies and interactions of your list. So I think it's great. Clearly, they don't want to be releasing them too early. They were kind of bad for that for a while, but now it's getting better. One of the frustrations is things like for Cygnar Reliant, where sometimes what Privateer Press does is they spoil and leak a model, and then it doesn't come out forever. You know, they released or spoiled the idea for Reliant way earlier than Dynamo, and Dynamo is now out, and Reliant isn't even on the radar. You know, they have a release schedule that you can go to their website, and you can be seeing and planning for what's coming out in the next 3 months, I think it is. But yeah, there is no Reliance, so it's going to be at least 4 months until this guy comes out. So we'll wait. Well, that's definitely something that they've been doing better. I mean, I just gave a current example of that happening, but that used to be a lot more common. So yeah, I like it either way. I like the spoiling and the learning. And at the same time, where I talk about Reliant, probably the reason why he's slower is because he became a multi-kit, where he's in there with the Stormclad, and people are wondering if there'll be a third Jack you can make from that kit as well. So that's probably what's going on there. Check, see if there's another comment here. Again, I see there's 9 people watching, so if you have something you want me to talk about, just make a post, and when I'm done these questions, I'll come back to you. Okay, do you think that new models replace old ones because they are more efficient? You don't see bloat thralls or bile thralls on the table anymore for Crix. I'm sure that there are other units in other factions. Yes and no. For example, I said about how the Defender used to be the shit for Cygnar, and everybody would have a Defender in their army, just guaranteed, because it was just awesome. It was the Ravagore to Cygnar. But then the Stormwall comes out, and it's like, wow, I could either buy 2 Defenders, or for 1 point more, I can basically get 2 Defenders and a Cyclone and a Stormcaller. So, yeah, that really kind of one replaced the other. There are times where the Defenders are better, so it's not just a straight up, duh, this thing is better, but it definitely was something that's a good example of what you're saying. In cases down here, you're saying about the bloat thrall. The bloat thrall never was really that popular. Crix likes having lots of units, and so having something that's shooting this scattering AoE might just end up in you killing your own guys. And it's not overly cheap. It's not overly effective. You know, probably, I mean, the thing that, I mean, you kind of say you don't see it, but I mean, bile thralls are a lot more easier to use. Basically, bile thralls are just like a bag full of chemicals. They explode and kill everything in front of them. So whereas the bloat thrall shoots and hopes to scatter in the right spot, the bile thralls just explode and kill everything in this area. And you do see them. Maybe in your meta you're not, but man, they are definitely not out. They are a very popular and very powerful model. And please, if you do not know what a bile thrall is, learn about it. The only bad things about bile thralls is that they have very low defense and armor. So if you have any ranged attacks, you can shoot those things down. But man, if you can, shoot them down. I mean, sure, a Bane Thrall can charge in and kill a guy, but the bloat thrall, or sorry, the bile thrall will walk up and kill like a unit. So you got to deal with that. You just can't ignore it. Plus, if you're playing like Gaspy, he's excarnating to get it even closer in danger, but that's a different topic for a different day. Do you think PP will start making their own terrain? They kind of used to. I have one back here where they used to work with Battlefield in a Box to make faction themed terrain. One of the things you'll see is there's a Kador one where there's like a big cannon. There's a Cygnar one with these like big electrodes. I have this Crix one here, which is kind of like the Soul Engine thing with some ruins. But that was kind of like a limited time thing, and then they stopped. I really would wish that they'd get into more things, and I think they might, because recently they've been getting more into, you know, they do the tokens, of course. They just released the rings. The little wound markers are coming out. So I think now that Privateer Press has got to the spot where they have a very solid and loyal fan base, they can now realize, okay, we don't have to just come out with the main game. We can start pushing out for some of these other things. And I could definitely see how they'd be bringing out terrain. Hey, and if they can work with Battlefield in a Box again, that would be amazing. You know, there's a lot of new factions, so maybe they can start making themed terrain for these other factions. So we'll have to kind of see if they do that. Lord 17C, why do you think that they are pushing light artillery? The main reason why they'd be pushing light artillery is because nobody takes them. Here's the thing. I think a lot of people see, artillery isn't as crushing as it is in fantasy. You know, in fantasy, you have a cannon, it plows through a dragon and kills a dragon, and you get this massive thing for your point. Sorry about that. And for the light artillery in War Machine, it's not really the same thing. Say, like when I played Legion, I had my Scather, whatever thing it was called. And I can either take a Ravagore for 10 points that shoots one at really long range and is a beast, or I can spend 3 points on this thing here. Now, points-wise, I mean, this thing's great. However, you know, it can't move and shoot. If anything gets to it, it's toast, whereas the Ravagore, you know, as pillow-fisted as it is, can, you know, fend for himself type thing. And people just don't use that artillery at all. You see that a lot more with the other factions too. You know, Khador has their mortar, and unless you're running one of the casters that can really make it, you know, click, you just don't see them. They've tried in the past, so say like the 2014, they had one of the objectives that would do the same thing, boosted damage rolls, but of course it was so random that you wouldn't take it. Now it's something you can really go on. So I think it's really just Privateer Press trying to balance the game. They're saying, wow, you know, light artillery is extremely rare. Nobody's ever taking it. What can we do to support this? And I think this is a good way of doing it. You know, you have something that definitely synergizes with our light artillery. You can build a list around it. I mean, hell, Cygnar has 3 different types of light infantry. We have a cannon, we have our chain gun, and we also have the lightning tower. And I mean, if you took 6, you know, 2, 2, and 2, and got them around that objective, man, it is going to be destroying stuff. But then again, I mean, it is kind of like a lockdown thing where they can't move and shoot. You're going to have to be forced around this objective. So you'd have to design your army to be a defensive army that can also protect them. So it's interesting, and I like what they're doing. It's not so much. I mean, here's the other thing. You've seen this in other companies where if they want a model to sell, they just make the rules ridiculous, right? Like, oh, nobody's buying Savage Orcs, so we'll do this, right? This is not that. This is not just trying to push their stats to 11 and making them the winners of the world. This is just modifying it a bit so that there are ways where they are definitely viable. You know, they're not going to be dominating and, you know, crushing every tournament, but now you're having people with making those conversations saying, hey man, what do you think about this build? You know, Jack, guy that you've seen on my channel quite a bit, he is building list after list, which is trying to work around that whole idea now of light artillery. And I think that's fantastic. Let's try and get this guy's eye. Okay, Mitch B saying, more fantasy. There will be more fantasy. I mean, it is going to happen, but it could be months before the next one. So you never know. You know, maybe they'll be doing a fantasy game in 2 weeks or maybe in 2 months. I'm focusing on War Machine. You know, this is my game right now. I want to be competitive, and that's what I'll be focusing on. Coming back to the things here from John Telby, have you gotten an answer for Bradigus yet? I think I do, although I haven't been able to practice it yet. Going into this last tournament, for those who don't know what Bradigus is, he is a circle caster who at first, when he was released, people were like, oh, he's garbage, ha, ha, ha. Who would ever want to run Bradigus? What a joke. And then his tier list came out, which really just took all the things he'd be taking anyway and gave you some crazy benefits for it. Like you get a free wold, you can now take 3 sets of stones, and it was just massive, 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 massive. So now this guy is kind of dominating the tournament scene until we can figure out the ways to defeat him. And my way of defeating him, or planning to, is twofold. With Siege, I drop my Blazers to put in the Nis. The Nis can see through forests. They're fast. They have long threat. And what I'm going to do is pop Siege's feet. And while other things are shooting the heavies, I am just going to focus on those goddamn stones. Because usually they're going to be kind of grouped together so that the shield guards can protect them. And so I'm just going to go in there, shoot, shoot, shoot. He'll have how many shield guards, but then the rest will hit. They're POW 10s. The armor of them will be dropped to 9. So really, as long as I can roll a 4 for damage, you know, it's like double 1s to hit, 4 to destroy, and bam, I can just take out all the stones like this. And then I am sitting pretty. So that's the plan. Have not been able to practice it to make sure that it's actually legit, but there's that plan. The other one is with Epic Haley saying, hey, when I pop my feet, you can't teleport around, so I can use that turn to really get in there and kill your stuff with like double Forge Guard. And then after that, hopefully you've been so badly damaged that I'll be really in control of the game. Again, in theory, I think it's genius. In practice, no idea. Nobody else is playing those things. Or if they are, they're not making battle reports, so I can't really see it in action. And I just haven't had a chance to test it myself. So we'll be coming up. I know this Wednesday for my War Machine Wednesday, a really great Circle player will be coming over. And yeah, it'll be neat to see what happens there. He may win that game very quickly, so hell, maybe I'll have a chance to play a game with him after or something. But either way, I mean, maybe I can just talk to him about it, right? I mean, that's one of the great things with our group here is that we're not like these secret cults hiding in our basements. If we have ideas for stuff, we'll still talk to each other about them. Like, hey, you know, man, what do you think about this? You know, do you think it'll do well against Bradigus? Because it's not like this guy is the only Circle player in the world. You know, and he knows that, hey, if I help him learn how to beat Bradigus, he's going to help me learn how to beat E. Haley. And then, you know, we'll both be getting better together. So, I mean, you do see a lot of that working together, and that's great. So hopefully he can confirm or deny whether that'll be a good strategy or not. All right, Flomus, whole bunch of questions. Number 1, which is the most iconic Warcaster or Warlock for each faction in your opinion? I think I covered this last time, but just to kind of go over this again, Cygnar would be Haley 2. Crix would be Denegra. I mean, some of these points, it'll be because they're the starter box caster. Like, say, Menoth, I would say Krios. It's kind of like the iconic one there. For Legion, it'd be Lilith 2. For Kador, I would say Butcher. For Convergence, they're too new. I'm sure most people, when they think of Convergence, would either go to LeConte or Syntherion, you know, either the starter box or one of the main tournament casters. What else? We got Scorn. Probably when they think of Scorn, they're thinking of Makita. If you're thinking of Retribution, man, what would you do for Retribution? What's their iconic caster? Kaylissa? Because she's a starter box? I don't know. Yeah, I'm sure there. Minions, that'd probably be Carver. It's probably like the basic one everyone knows. Oh, what do I do here? Got some paint on it. For mercenaries, it's probably Thor. Now, for those who are mercenary players, they're probably having a chuckle because Thor is not a caster, but Thor is the most popular model that you'll see with every caster running your Earthbreaker. And probably Gordon is probably then the main caster that you're taking with him, or most well known. Because again, he's the starter caster. Oh, didn't do these yet. What other factions did I miss with that? Circle, probably, well, right now, Bradigus, but more iconic and long is probably Kruger. Maybe Balder. Yeah. I mean, that's the problem. I mean, with some of these factions, it's not like they're based around just one model, right? In Circle, you have multiple warlocks that are fighting for power. So, I mean, do you say Kruger? Do you say Balder? Do you say Morvanna? It really depends whether you're coming at it from a fluff standpoint or a tournament standpoint or, you know, a starter standpoint. Or, I mean, all these guys will know these things from the starter set. So it's actually kind of hard to answer. Next question. Which is your preferred caster? My number 1, it used to be always my favorite caster was Epic Magnus, but now I got to go with Kane 2. I can grab Kane 2 at any time, and I love it. Really fun caster. Love just the pew, 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 shoot everything up, dance around. Yeah, he's definitely my favorite caster. He's not my current drops or my current pairing, just because he doesn't seem to be answering what I need him to answer. But, man, if it's like, hey, go grab your favorite caster, I'm going to grab Kane 2 right away. Number 3, lore-wise, which army do you find the most interesting? Lore-wise. You know what? I would say lore-wise, it was Legion. It was that was the first faction I got into, and the whole idea where it was like these battle of dragons, and this one was defeated, Everblight, and now he's wanting to come back, so he gives like a part of his essence to these mortals so that they can take his power and kind of like use them as pawns to bring them back, and he's kind of like corrupting others. And it's not like corrupting like making zombies. It's more you're blighting them and like turning them evil. It's almost like a vampire thing where you're infecting them and type thing, right? Or a werewolf thing. And so it's just really cool. So I mean, the view wise, I'm looking at my Archangel right now. That's why I'm looking off this way. The view of them is awesome as well. But lore wise, I just love that thought of like this mastermind god dragon in the background that has his pawns out there that he's selectively giving more and more power to get his schemes done, right? It really is, to me, that's my favorite part of the lore. Number 4, will you be doing some sort of Around the World in 12 Games campaign with War Machine? In the future, I could definitely see doing that. We don't really have that community yet, right? We don't really have it so that all the YouTubers are working together. Maybe one of the things I'll need to do is I know Advanced Maneuvers is really picking up a lot of steam. They're doing a big push right now to get to 4,000 subscribers. And, maybe working with more of them, we can do this, make that War Machine YouTubers like Google Plus or Facebook page where we can really start spreading the word. And then once you have that network built, then you can start doing these campaigns. I think right now with the limited viewers I'm getting, it wouldn't be that beneficial, but definitely something I can see doing later on. Looking here for Lord 17C, talking about Osiren on feet turn would work. Yeah, that was just talking about something I was talking about there before. Number 5, how can you paint so fast? Like these two guys are done already. Haha. I take hour upon hour painting a single warcaster. Do you have pixie prisoners in a bottle and make them paint while you sleep? Where can I get them? Honestly, the way that I paint really fast is that I have a system and I have low standards. I mean, honestly, I'm going to go and put my wash on here now. It's going to kind of fill in some details, but these are not award-winning models, right? I am never going to win Best Painted. I am basically painting to numbers and then throwing on a wash. And to me, that's good enough. That's all I want for them. They look fine from across the table or me looking down, and that's good enough. So definitely low standards. That's a good way. But as well, more seriously, it's just having a system. It's just saying, okay, here is my series of paints, and I know whenever I paint a Forge Guard model, I make it all green. I usually then do the backpack because I can use a big brush for that. Then for the details, I do the black. Then I do the silver. Then I do the red. Then I do the brown. And then wash and done. Like I have a system. I can't really think of a better way of putting that to get them done. And when you do that, you can just go into the zone. I mean, right now, like when I was painting these guys, I just not even noticing the time go by. I just painted them up, and it was kind of like, wow, first of all, time went by. We're pretty much at the hour right now, but I will finish all the questions first before I go. And as well, just the fact that I'm done. I was looking at my guys like, oh, they're painted. They're done. So, yeah, that's really it there. I mean, the other part too for painting is just keeping at it, right? Even if you make a system, if you do, a model and then wait a month and then do another model, it's just not going to be muscle memory. You need to just be painting day after day or, week after week, making sure that you have a schedule and then you don't let a huge amount of time be in between there, because if you do, like I said, you won't have that muscle memory and you're starting all over again, and that's not what you want. Next question. How is the painting challenge going? It is going very well. So I painted, like from the last update. Okay, here, first of all, what was I trying to paint? I was trying to paint 1 unit of press gangers, 2 units of Forge Guard, a Hunter, and a Minuteman. So far, we have the press gangers done. 1 unit of the Forge Guard. I have my Minuteman and my Hunter. And for the last unit of Forge Guard, I just finished 2 of the 10. So I have 8 more Forge Guard that I have to finish by this weekend. And if I do 2 a day, that should be no problem. Unfortunately, I am making it hard on myself because I have really jam-packed this week with lots of things where, I'm on Thursday, I'm going to be with Anthony, talking with him there. I'm doing board game nights on Friday and running a tournament on Saturday. So all this prep I have to do for this, and also life things like I'm a scout leader. I have to deal with that tomorrow. But I'll be done. I'm not going to say there's no way I won't finish, but looking at now, I'm not in a rough spot. I'm in a spot where this should be really easy to finish it up. Some more other ones are here currently saying from Flame Knight Dragon, if Privateer Press makes a Paladin-themed Warcaster, what would you like to see it be able to do? Well, if we're talking Cygnar, Purify. Some cleric guy that can purify things. We don't have Purify right now in Cygnar, so that'd be a great one to have. Maybe it can be a little bit of Blessed. Like, I'm trying not to make it the same as Connie, Constance Blaze, but you would want something like that. It'd be cool if he had a paladin thing like the Menoth paladins do, where he can forfeit his movement or his action to get those extra bonuses. Like, I can't be damaged by non-magical attacks or whatever. There's a lot of cool things you could do there. And as well, if you're keeping within Cygnar, we already have it so that Constance Blaze makes it so you can get a lot more of the Precursor Knights and stuff. But you could either make it so that, maybe we can make it so that the Storm Lances are better. So, because Constance really likes to work with the Sword Knights and the Precursors, but what if you made him be a lot more of the Knight stuff? Like, maybe it's a Paladin that's on a mounted. So this is a mounted Constance Blaze, basically. They'll be more pushing the Storm Lances, and that could be kind of cool if you kind of work those things together. One of the things you could talk about this stuff forever because there's so many options you could do. Would I love it? Yes. Again, another one you have to watch out if you're going for mounted is to not make it too much like Striker 3, but I think you can make those fairly different. But yeah, it could definitely be interesting. Buddy Langer, good old Ryan, saying, Go Legion. I'm about to go Prime Abbey 2, Totem Hunter, and Tariff. I'll throw some paint on them tomorrow. And that's awesome. He's a local guy here where I've been telling him for a while, do your Abbey 2, do your Abbey 2, but he just hasn't had time to pick it up, and he's been playing his Bale too. So this will be awesome. We'll get to see what he does there. And again, the more he plays these casters like Abbey 2, the more that I can be prepared for it as well when I go to a tournament. All right, going back over, Lord 17C saying, I have seen a lot of your lists running huge amounts of infantry. Do you find this hard to manage time-wise? Do you think this works better than having 2 jacks? I've answered this one before, and I really have no problem with it. I'm used to running my orcs where I have lots of models and Plus, I realize the fact that sometimes it's not worth making attacks. I'm sure there's times my opponent is looking across the table and my unit is there, and I run it into his face instead of charging. I go the same distance, and I could be charging, but if I feel that my attacks will be negligible, like he has high armor or high defense, and I'll just be wasting time, I am fine doing less attacks and being less effective if I can keep my time. Basically, these are all resources. Having models, control points, health on your caster, time, these are all resources, and basically I'm choosing to do less damage to my opponent to preserve my clock. Now, of course, you also have to have an end game to that, because if I just never attack forever, I'll lose, unless I really am in a position to win my scenario. So I also have it so that I really think out my lists, and I always have a plan before. I mean, I don't have any paper here to show you, but when I design an army, I don't just write the army, I draw the army. I'll say circle, 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 circle. Like, I'll be drawing out it. Man, I just want to show you. Otherwise, this won't make any sense. Where do we got something here? No, I'm not going to draw on the the little thing I got from my son. But I'll try showing something here or what I do. So when I'm designing a list, I'll actually do, like, this is very simplistic, and I'll tab over, make sure it's showing, but I'll draw it. I'll say, okay, here's this unit of 10, here's the jack, here's this gun mage unit, here's my caster in the back, and I'll be planning out how I'm going to deploy, how I'm going to move, how I want them to interact, even space-wise. You know, there's been times where I've been like, haha, throw in all the models, and then realize, wow, I just don't have room to deploy. I want to take out some of those other ones to get in either some key solos or advanced deploy or something so that it'll actually fit on the board and be effective. So I find that this really helps. And yeah, I have no problem. Move up, attack, do cool things. And is it more effective? You know, would I be better off taking 2 jacks? Sometimes it really depends. What I like having for lots of models is that I can do that. I can swarm, and even if you have some hard hitters like Bane Thralls, sure, you kill one guy, but I got 2 guys to take his place to take you out after. So there's that whole swarm mentality. There is the board control mentality. I mean, if I have 2 jacks, they're taking up this much space. If I use that to take 20 models, they're taking up this much space. So that ability to just fill the board also allows me to control those zones. They also help me protect my Warcaster. Again, if I can only cover this much space with 2 jacks or this much with all the infantry, well, it's a lot easier with all those models to block line of sight to my caster to keep them alive. As well, I feel that I'm really good at all the micro interactions, setting up the charges and counter charges that you need, skills that I got from, you know, chess and fantasy. So I really feel that these are really effective. At the same time, you can't just ignore the need to have something heavy hitting. So if you're not going to go, you know, full in, I'm just going to try and run across the board and keep you out, you need to have some heavy hitters there so that if something does get into zone, you have a way to destroy it or get it out. So there are times you need a big punch, but I find ways around it usually. Okay, next one here from, oh God, Prezimek Rozalski. That's probably how it goes. Sorry if I butcher your name. I'm not gonna insult you and not even try. I'll at least do like I usually find that worse. You know, if you have a bad name, you're like, oh, some crazy foreign name. I'm not even gonna like bother trying to say it. You know, to me that's more insulting. I'd rather try and say it. So, Presmic Rozalski, hey, Mr. Malorian, I have one question about tournaments, which is actually, in my opinion, great topic for one-year War Machine 101s. What are the tournaments out there, and what are the differences? I mean, is what all of these steamrollers, iron gauntlets, and others? Cheers from Poland. Hey, how's it going? So there are lots and lots of different formats out there. First of all, there's the main ones where you have your steamrollers, and you have your hardcore, and you have your iron gauntlet. But there's tons of other formats as well. First of all, within those, you can make slight changes that completely change what the format is. I mean, going from death clock to time turns. Is it divide and conquer, right? These things can really change it. But as well, you have all these other janky ones like spell draft, and you have who's the boss. And there's really tons of them out there. There's also ones people just make up. But really, what I want to try and maybe cover now, because I do agree with you that this would be a great topic for a separate time, for a War Machine 101. Really just know that there's lots out there, but really the ones you should be concentrating on are, well, Steamroller. Steamroller is the one you're going to be seeing almost all the time. And if it is anything else like Masters or Iron Gauntlet, go to the website. It's free. You can see all the rules right there. Just go to the Privateer Press forum, or not the forum, the website. There'll be a little tab for organized play, and you just click on that, and then you're able to find all those there for free. So if you know you're going to a tournament and it's hardcore, go there, learn those rules. If you are going to a tournament and it's going to be who's the boss, that might not be posted anywhere on the website. I'm not sure if it is or not, but go out and find out the information. You know, the tournament organizer, if he's expecting you to go to his tournament, he should be willing to supply you with the rules for said tournament. So talk to the organizer or talk to your local press ganger, and they'll hook you up. But as far as each one, because there are a lot of different ones, I'll do that separately. Okay, Hufferu 815 or 812. Have you ever played against Zerkova list that worked? I am interested in this black sheep of Khador Warcasters. Love your vids. Thanks. Yeah, thanks for watching. And Zerkova is an interesting one where if she had an arc node, she'd be so much better. But I have seen lists for Zerkova that have worked. Now, she has this tier list. And with the tier list that you take is extra Kayazi. And Kayazi are freaking amazing. They're the assassins. They have really high defense, and you can just swarm and destroy. So if you take the tier, they do extremely well. You get the double underbosses and all this. And basically, while she's doing her best to try and do her little support spells and stuff, these assassins are just swarming the board. They can charge through models, and they just kill the Warcaster like that. When you're ever up against like one unit or some eliminators, you can handle them. But when the whole list is just Kayazi ninjas coming at you, that is freaking tough. So that to me is the best one I've seen. We'll see that now that she has a new model, because they did a resculpt for her, whether more people will be playing her and trying to figure out better lists as well. But yeah, that's the biggest one to me that I see is the best one out there so far. This name here is like I upper and lowercase over and over again. So I can't even see that. It's like I. Oh, Mr. Malorian, are there any known plans to make minions their own faction? Well, there really are. Oh, maybe you're talking about joining them together, because they are currently minions is a faction. I am asking because one, as of right now, there are no starter sets available for minions. Well, okay, there are starter sets designed. You can't go to the store and just say, like, I want the Minion starter set. However, for Journeyman League, they have these starter sets already defined. And I believe every faction has 3 already. So you just have to go to the Privateer website, to their league play, and you will find these here. They'll tell you, for a starting player, here's a starter set. Now, maybe given your gameplay and what you want to take, maybe that's not the best thing for you, but price-wise, it's not a crazy difference. I mean, you do save money getting the starter sets, but, one of the things I'm wondering is, like, what we talked about before, this whole Cygnar thing with the whole army in a box. They could do it for minions, so we'll have to see what happens there. Anyway, continuing with the question there, I am thinking of getting into War Machine, and the models available for minions are the ones piquing my interest. Minions is really cool. I mean, whether you like the whole pigs and the boars, or whether you like the alligators and the swamp things, they're a very cool aesthetic, and they just need to make more models for them. And one of the things I don't really understand is you would think that as a model designer, you'd be drooling over to do this stuff, right? Because, like, oh, great, I got to make another Cygnar thing or whatever. But to me, like, being able to make, like, a new creature is where you can really let your creativity flow. So, and there's so, like, they haven't done anything, right? There's one Gator unit, and you could be saying, like, okay, how about if we have, like, this ambushing Gator unit, right? Because that's something with Gators. So you can design it like this, and he has, instead of a big glaive, he has like 2-hand weapons or something, or maybe you actually have the shield one, or maybe they'll all have spears, or who knows, right? There's so many different things they could do. So clearly they are going to get more stuff in the future. The Thornfall, the pigs, they're going to be getting their truck, battle engine. That's going to be crazy. We already know that the new battle engine for Gators is freaking amazing, so that's going to really change things too. But yeah, if you love them for the look, play them. Not everything is amazing, but know that it is going to grow, and eventually, as more and more options come up, they're just going to get better and better and better. Like, minions used to be just ignored until Rask came out. And once Rask came out, it's like, wow, here's a really great model that can really give the army what it needs, right? Gators don't like getting shot. Hey, how about a feat that says, you can't freaking shoot me? That really helps. So just know that they will be getting better and better. And if you love them, start them and just be ready to take a little bit of lickings now, but know that comeuppance is coming. It is pronounced Huffer O U812. Okay, this is from the one I was trying to pronounce here. Huffer O U812. All right, gotcha. Sergeant Death 1942. A nice simple one to get started. What is your opinion on the faction dice sets? At first, I thought they were really cool. It's nice to have dice that match your faction. But then it started getting just a couple of issues. One, whenever I see another Cygnar guy, he's going to have the same Cygnar dice. So when you're rolling dice on the table, you start going like, oh, was that your dice or my dice? Or maybe when you're just packing up, you accidentally grab an extra dice. Like, oh, damn, now I won't see this guy for another couple of months. So that kind of took away from it. And as well, some of the faction dice was really hard to read. So in the end, in the beginning where I thought that was awesome, and I got the Cygnar dice and I got the mercenary dice, now I've taken those out and I'm using regular dice. I have my orc dice I use, and they're a lot easier to read, and I know nobody else is going to have those. So very cool to use, but some of them, man, look at the conversions ones. Those ones are so hard to read, or the retribution ones. The mercenary ones, even where they're like a green and yellow together, they can kind of blend, so it's unfortunate. Do you think that it is a bit pricey, or do you see it as something that Privateer Press might need to expand on to keep making money off of long-term players, something Games Workshop struggles with? I don't really think that that's a huge issue with Privateer Press. We already talked about how they are branching out into other things. They've done the dice, they have done the tokens, they have done now the rings, they're bringing in the wound markers. It'd be really nice if they did their own laser thing. Maybe they'll make their own death clocks. They could do all these things and they would sell. And I could definitely see them getting into them. So whether they need to bring in money, I don't think they need to. Like I said, as soon as a new model comes out, it opens up new synergies so that longtime players all of a sudden get other stuff as well. I pretty much bought the whole faction. What the hell? What is Privateer Press hoping to get off me now, where I own almost everything? But still, they're getting money out when they release new models, or they're getting money when they release new books. And I want to learn the tier lists or stuff like this. But it's definitely another way they can get money, but I don't feel they even need it. It's just one of the things where, hey, we're doing awesome. We can do even more awesome. And this, especially if they release things that people want, I think it's a great thing for them to do. Another one here, which I have to open up because it's long. Sergeant Death 1942. My next question relates to my local scene a little bit. I joined a new player league that was filled with older 40K and fantasy players. The idea of this league was for all of these players to learn War Machine without getting stomped by some nasty caster combos. To achieve this, we have a caster ban list and restrictions on units. You must start with either the starter box or your faction battle box and build from there. Like I said, there's the starter box you buy, and then there's also the faction, like other ones they've designed that you can see that Privateer Press is giving the okay to. What are your thoughts on introducing new players to War Machine Hordes this way? This prevents some really nasty combos, Butcher, E. Haley, while slowly introducing new elements to the game. It seems to me to be a really good way to bring new people into the game before you hit them with the nasty top tier list. Well, I'm just going to say that pretty much I agree. The whole Journeyman League idea where it's a slow grow, you take the starter box and you grow from there. You have to start with this caster, and after so many games you can do a new caster. That's really good. And the reason why is because in the smaller games, some casters will be dominating. Just imagine. Haley 2 would be not that great. If you're playing like a 10-point game or a 15-point game, E. Haley is like, not that crazy. Butcher 3 in like a 10-point game or 15-point game is off the charts. So that's why it's really good to start with those starter games, to start with these well-known balanced lists that are not going to be off the top, and use those to learn the game. Now, the whole idea of banning models and banning casters, I would not push that too much. I mean, the last thing you want is to teach them the game and then show them after that the game that you taught them and got them invested in is not actually the game that's actually played. For example, they might be like, oh yeah, it's all about Striker. This is the way you play the game, and it's all about this and this and this. And then it's not till later they realize, wow, I actually have to build a list to deal with this, and I need a list that can deal with that, and that whole aspect to it. So something you should also have rather instead is know that for these journeyman leagues, they are for new players. And so if you have veteran players that are going to go and play in this, have that understanding that, I mean, just don't be a dick. You know, I'm not going to go and join a German league, take Haley 2, and just crush all these noobs, right? Like, what's in it for me? I'm not learning anything. I'm not getting any, you know, internet points or anything for that. It's like, oh, look, you know, good for you, Malorian, you're an asshole, right? So it's really, I think, more having understanding for these other players. And that's really it. I mean, you would probably want to keep that battle, you know, a starter box caster till 35 points. And I'd say at 35 points, then start opening it up. But yeah, I mean, you can't just protect these new players forever. Eventually, they are going to have to learn how to deal with the Kruger 2, the Haley 2, Kane 2. All these ones are, you know, the nasty casters. But at the same time, you know, I could be taking a caster that's not the well-known nasty one, like Gordon. Like Gordon can be very tricky to deal with and can really catch you off guard, right? Just like Kane 2 can as well. But it's not the simple, like, jump up, shoot, shoot, shoot. You know, again, Kane 2 in small point games, ridiculous. Kane 2 and 50 points, okay, now he's balanced, or more balanced, rather. So I basically am agreeing with you, but just saying don't ban those casters too long. So either way, that is all of the comments that I had from the previous video. I'm just going to now get rid of that one so that nobody gets confused. And I'll see if there's any last questions on here. We've been going for a while. We're like 20 minutes over what I normally do. But hey, I mean, if you guys have questions, I'll answer them. You know, I'm not going to say time's up. Sorry, suckers, I'm out of here. I'm just going to quickly see if there's anything else. Oh, Buddy Langer saying Cygnar doesn't need purification, says the Veil 2 player. I mean, I see nothing wrong with Cygnar having purification. We could take Epic Iris already. They could shoot something off. So having purification in there isn't that big of a deal. Plus, you know, I always love seeing casters that have purification and upkeeps. So it's like, you know, like Krios. I can cast purification, and purification's awesome, but it's also taking my own upkeeps off. So as long as they do something more like that, I have no problem with it. Anything else? I think that's it. So with that, I want to thank everybody for watching. Please, whatever you're painting, let me know. I had painted my Forge Guard, and there's 2 more done and ready to go. 8 more, and I'm all done it. But either way, I'll catch you next Monday, and see you later. Bye.